You got that pipe that crosses from Notre Dame further to the east of their proposed new common drive. And that dumps water right into that lot, which is like small. He's gonna do it. Yeah, off the road pool. Yeah. Exclusive.
Burgers and lollipops there.
What is the group? Is it?
Looks like it, huh?
Yeah. What do we want to pass?
We'll get started. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What's going on, except for Tom. Good morning, Tom.
Morning.
So I won't review the etiquette for Zoom. Privilege of the floor we don't need to do. And approval of the minutes from January 6th.
So move.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Town manager update. Anyone willing to carry the ball on that, or should we wait for Tom? Or John, excuse me.
I don't know if John is planning on coming or not, but,
Are you able to carry
yeah, I
us through
can
that?
fill you in on that. So when the town adopted the form-based code in 2021, following the adoption of the actual form-based code document into code, they then went back and formally rezoned the parcels into the form-based code zoning district and inadvertently left a parcel out by mistake. So the map in our, our official zoning map doesn't match the form-based code map that's in the document. So it left one of the larger parcels involved in the Uptown project in two other zoning districts. Nobody noticed this until a couple weeks ago. So this proposed change just takes care of any discrepancies between those other underlying zoning districts and the requests for incentives and the incentives that were then granted by the town board, just to match it up. The biggest one was that form-based code does not have or form-based code does rather, have a defined minimum lot length. None of our other zoning districts do that. Our other zoning districts typically have an area minimum and a lot width minimum, but no length defined. So we just needed an actual square footage defined for the incentives where there was not before with what was granted by the town board. It just said lot width can be reduced from the 100-foot minimum that form-based code requires to 60 foot. But that didn't account for these other zoning districts, where that doesn't actually mean anything because they don't have a length. Okay, it can be a minimum lot width of 60, but they still have their own minimum sizes. So for example, R130 is a minimum size of 30,000 square feet. So none of the single family homes in that part of the Uptown Landing area were being proposed with a lot size that large. So we dug in a little bit, figured out where the differences were, and then just added a minimum 6,000 square foot area to the incentives. This change is just to fix the overlooked issue from before. It doesn't change the incentives that were requested as far as the project goes. Nothing has changed. It's just adding that language about the minimum square footage so that when we go through the site plan review process, we have something to fall back on for those other zoning districts that we didn't realize were. Like, that's a long way to explain it, but hopefully that gives you all the details of what happened, why we're doing it, and what we're doing to fix it.
My understanding was this was just an update. We don't need to take any action on it here at this meeting. And it'll
Not
be-
at this meeting, no. The town board will decide whether to, it's just an amendment to the agreement that was executed between the town and the developer. And it's really just a one-liner about the minimum 6,000 square feet. So no, I think he just wanted to make sure everybody here understood what was happening. So when you saw it on the town board agenda, they understood why.
That'll be on for the 24th.
Yeah, so you guys set a public hearing last week for the February town board meeting,
For March.
24th of
And then
February.
24th, we set the,
No, you set it on January
Oh, we did, all right.
31st.
all right, so it'll be.
As far as I know, yes, it was
Comment
that,
on,
yeah, and
it
then.
can Be resolved.
And fixing this issue and having it go back to the town board does not necessarily change the timeline of the process for the project in the planning board. The only way it would change anything is if the town board decided not to make a decision at the February meeting and continued it.
Any questions?
So the subdivision and site plan approval we're shooting for the planning board, that wouldn't be affected, would that occur after the town board adopts this, correct?
Yeah, the day after.
The day after. I know it's close, okay.
Yeah, so if everything goes the way I think it likely will at the town board meeting on February 24th. Then you guys can still do what, have your review on the 25th.
Yep.
Even if the town board wasn't comfortable with the change and wanted more time, you guys could still review the project on the 25th. You just wouldn't be able to take action.
Well, we're reviewing it, we did review it, we will review it twice in February, and by then I hope in March to, we have an idea what we're doing. Yeah, I think we should.
I've not heard any objection from any member of the town board, so.
I
Really
wouldn't
correcting it
imagine
all.
there
It's
should
not
be,
good.
because it doesn't change anything that was asked for or the idea of what you guys were granting. It's really just a technicality.
Well, it should be straightforward for you, 24 hours later.
We're used to it.
Tom, do you have any questions?
No.
Good, moving on. Bisected lots. We had a draft that John, I believe, had sent around to everyone. Anybody have any comments on that?
Sorry.
Worries.
John, you had one comment as far as footprint of square footage?
I do, yeah. I just want to see if anyone else has any comments. I do have a comment regarding bullet B1. And John and I were a little bit uncertain of this, but I thought we said that the proposed new structure needed to be of the same square footage as the structure being demolished, or no more than the square footage of the structure being demolished. And John seemed to think it was the same footprint, which I think would be extremely difficult.
No, I think we discussed the possibility, as long as it's a square footage, they can move it around the lot, and if it improves the non-conformity, if it was a non-conforming lot, it actually makes it better. All the better we allow it based on square footage rather than footprint.
That's how I seem to recall it also.
My notes say footprint, and the reason why I think it matters is if you say square footage, then you could have a 2-story, 2,000 square foot home, tear it down, so it covers 1,000 square feet on the ground, tear it down, and build a 1-story, 2,000 square foot home, same size, that takes up twice the area on the ground. So it takes up more space on the ground, it covers more of the lot than the other house, twice
How
the
about we
amount.
say the same building,
Well, you could say
Same
building
same-
coverage, same
That's-
building coverage.
That is what,
Is that taken care of by
Well,
subsection two?
hmm,
The design of the new residential construction. Wow, I can't talk today. The design of the new residential structure does not result in any increase to a previous conformity. So it's thought to be the same, if not less, block coverage or conformance with it.
only. No, not necessarily unless, I mean, it could still increase as long as it doesn't. Number 2 would allow it to increase as long as it doesn't, as long as it wasn't pre-existing.
Get your,
Number 2 would only allow. Would allow a new structure to be larger as long as it was not a pre-existing nonconformity already. But my notes from January 6th say that you guys wanted to have it for footprint, same coverage.
no more than,
Allowed to rebuild on the same footprint with the same coverage.
well. I think what we're all saying is that the proposed new structure must be constructed with no more than the square footage of the footprint of the residential structure being demolished.
And you just said, so you're in agreement.
building coverage.
No more than the footprint, doesn't have to be built on the footprint, but no more than the square footage of the footprint.
I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying,
Yeah,
yes,
Okay.
which is not the same thing as removing the word footprint and just saying same square footage. You're intending
Then
it
you
to
can
take
go-
up no more area than it did before on the ground,
On the
not
ground.
necessarily that the home needs to be the same square footage overall.
No more than, right, correct. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be on that existing footprint,
It could, like Chuck said, it could be in a different location.
yes.
So how can we say that so that it
It doesn't sound right the way you just said.
does that without allowing it to take up more space?
I think I did. The proposed new residential structure must be constructed with a square footage no more than the footprint of the existing residential structure.
How about constructed with the same building coverage as the residential?
That's good too.
Yeah. 'Cause then there's
Otherwise, you're getting
terms
into
of
it.
Yeah, right,
Now,
right,
otherwise you're getting this, now what's the
Right.
definition
yeah,
of
yeah,
footprint?
yeah, you're
I'll
right.
let you wordsmith it. That's, I don't think we need to worry about that here. You got the intent, right? It's just no more than.
I think we
Okay.
understand what you're proposing, and I get that, and
We comfortable with that? Tom, you
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody else okay?
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. Form-based code updates. First, I guess and foremost, I wanted to just check the temperature on everybody. From what I see, there's only 3 or 4 constraining issues within the form-based code that I think are kind of restrictive to developers. And I think we could just modify those in the existing form-based code, or we could get rid of this altogether and start anew. And I just wanted to those seem to be the 2 alternatives, and I just wanted to check the temperature of everyone and see what you all thought about that. And then we can talk about the individual changes subsequent to that.
I like option A. Option A.
Yeah, I'm-
Which is
I'm for
modifying this.
modifying, yeah, I'm for modifying, let's take out what doesn't
So
work.
what are the 3 restricting things?
I don't know what the, you eliminated it totally. What would happen the other side of that,
Right,
how long would it take us
To modify it.
to
yeah,
get back
Right.
to?
something that looks
Could be
like, it.
months.
yeah, oh, yeah, months, maybe not this year.
Yeah, the unintended consequences.
Okay, Tom, what are your thoughts?
Right.
I think we just tweak it a little bit. I don't think we should start all over for sure.
So,
You've come up with some flaws, let's correct them.
Yeah,
So who does that?
You
Is
do.
the committee?
We do.
we do, we do.
Somebody else writes, you know,
Wasn't there a subcommittee that was? looking
yeah, they were
into
looking at it.
What the issues are with the form base and
Yeah.
including staff and.
John,
Yeah,
right,
we
John,
kinda-
and Garrett.
We kind of agreed, came to the same conclusion on the issues that were a little bit restrictive. And the first one was the setback requirement. I might not have the numbers exactly right, but before we had form-based code, the building structures were required to be 100 plus or minus feet off the road. And then form-based code made the building structures be within 10 to 30 feet of the existing roadway. And I think what we've heard, or we could leave either of those, modify either of those, or my suggestion would be to open it up and let the developers decide what's best for their particular development.
Why do we care? Because if you drive down that road, it's 10 feet to, what's the furthest one back? One of the car dealers, probably Randy Farnsworth's furthest one back.
Probably 100 plus.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get it. If it was a big blank piece of earth, we could do what we want, but it's done. And none of our lifetime is it ever gonna change.
I agree. Tom, how do you feel?
I liked the original thought of getting things closer to the road, but the change, as was pointed out, it's not going to be within our lifetime. I'd like to see it all burned down and started from scratch, but that's not going to happen.
Careful, Tom. Careful, Tom.
We're not California.
Chuck, how about you?
I agree. I think there's some attributes to having the design as proposed, but it doesn't apply to all conditions, so I think you have to look at it on a site by site, lot by lot basis. So.
I would like to charge the planning board with do we want them closer or further away and say, if that works, let's try to encourage developing to do that. But I don't think we want a law that says gotta be 10 feet. I don't think that works for me.
Terry?
I agree. It's not practical.
Right.
It's not going to happen. You can't force these people to abandon their business plan. You can't pull a building closer to the road. Physically, isn't going to happen.
Be cold.
It is what it is. We have to modify them to reflect what we have on the ground and what we have on the ground with few spaces that haven't been filled in yet. They're going to change the overall look, right? If you pull them closer to the road, so.
And if
freedom.
And if you take somebody that's gonna, if our threshold is 50% or whatever it is, and then we gotta make them do all that, are we just costing them money to do business in the town of Canandaigua? I said yes.
So what I'm hearing is that we think we ought to just open it up and let the developers decide what they're comfortable with.
I would like to see we come up with something that we'd like in an ideal world, put that to the planning board and then say, hey, if you can encourage them, because they can, and say, hey, can you move that closer? No, it doesn't fit our business model. Okay.
Prior to form-based code, we always had an issue, people wanted to be closer to the road, maybe not 10 feet. They wanted to be closer and they wanted to park in the back, which is a good planning concept. It should work, but we had a requirement, you had to be 150 feet back from the road. So that was probably part of the premise and the reasoning for the form-based code. So again, having the flexibility, if it is a car dealership, they have that ability to spotlight their cars in the front. That's one thing, but if it's a retail establishment and they want to get close to the road and they can be encouraged, be close to the road, let them be.
So
I agree.
Okay, so that, do you think we can modify this form-based code language to reflect that?
So right now, we've got two different sets of setbacks, depending on whether they fall in the 332 or the sub area. So if you guys want to
How about you
change it right now, it's a minimum of 10 feet away and a maximum of 30. If I'm understanding you, the group's desire, you're probably okay with the 10-foot, but
Minimum.
not,
30?
the 30-foot.
Correct.
So you'd like to widen that range
Yes.
so that they have greater flexibility.
Yes.
Put a maximum of whatever the.
Oh, max.
no maximum.
Maximum.
Well, I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, would you put it, whoever's the furthest away now, that.
Or why do we even care if they
No,
want to
I-
put,
I'm
you know what I
fine.
mean? Yeah, I mean, I think we want to decide what we want the roadway to look at. If and we don't want people too close, I would guess, right?
Right.
So that's the 10-foot
Well,
minimum?
in the case of the Canandaigua Crossing, the one building we have out there, that was a triangular lot. It was a tough lot, and we always talked about moving that building closer, but they couldn't because of the 150-foot rule.
Correct.
Then when form base was, I guess it's a
It was
concept.
in the works when they were
Yeah, it
going
was still
through their
commercial, it was
project,
still
yeah.
commercial. So we said, no, move the building front, put your parking in the back, and it worked out great as far as the parking. It's another thing whether they should be able to lease it or not, but.
Yeah, I mean, if you put a restaurant in that particular building, it'd be kind of loud.
Could
You're
be.
a tall trainer building, right? So
But he
you're
was,
talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
one next to Tom.
yeah. And that's close to the road.
It was done.
I'm
It was
not,
done
I'm not,
intentionally, yeah.
I'm just saying that that's close to the road.
In fact, in the application procedure, they said they're gonna have al fresco dining.
Yeah,
out-
and
out
you
on the
couldn't
sidewalk.
hear to put an order in, on a 5 o'clock on any night.
When we say 10 feet from the road, what does that mean? 10 feet
No,
from the right
Not
of
10
way?
feet from the road, from the right of way.
So in reality,
Which
it's
30 feet or so.
from the edge of the road at that building, about 30 feet. About 30 to 40.
Yeah, so all of these setbacks are from the lot lines,
Yeah.
not from
From
actual.
the road, right?
Yeah.
That brings up a really good point with a lot of the lots along that route, especially near your intersections. Because New York State DOT goes out very far.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got some buildings that are so pre-existing non-conforming that they're built.
in
within
the right
The
of
right of
way.
way.
right of way. So, for example. Corner of,
Motors.
yeah, corner of 28 North Road and 332, that corner all, their building is 2 feet off the right of way. All the cars are parked within the right of way. Similarly with airport, that goes up where it is. So,
That ever been a problem or an issue for?
yes. Particularly with the one on the corner of North and 332, they tried to do a building expansion. I went out there, we mapped it out. There was just.
But they're not selling cars anymore. They're doing something else there. like glass or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they don't have that particular need.
they
currently.
do still sell.
They do?
The
Yeah.
Glass, Mr. Glass rents it. And then the gentleman who
Okay.
pays it still does do private sale.
Does the state ever come in?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
But they could, right? They could have them remove the cars. Yeah. But
So
they
I
do
think
that.
what I'm hearing is, and anybody jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, on the primary street, we'd like to leave 10-foot minimum and open the maximum to whatever. Now, on the side streets, again, my inclination is to leave the 10-foot and reduce the maximum or eliminate the maximum. And on the rear setback, that doesn't make any sense to me to have a maximum, but I do think that we ought to at least keep it 10-foot back off of a road or rear property line or whatever the case may be.
Well, just like the housing developments going in there, we want that, we want some kind of buffer in there, so let's, I'd like to I agree with you, I'd like to mandate that somehow.
10 foot and then
Yeah.
open up the maximum,
Yeah.
right? Sarah, you
Yeah,
got that?
that's,
No, I'm sorry, can you say that
You-
again?
Sure. On the primary street, I'm on page 70.
Yeah, that's where I am too.
On the primary street, we leave the 10-foot minimums for the primary side and rear setbacks. And we eliminate any maximums.
Do we, and is that 10 foot on the backside in there?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, it's 10-foot minimum for primary street, the side street, or the rear. And then, yeah,
and I
Okay.
think we should keep those,
Yeah.
but take away the maximum.
which means, yeah, so they can be as close as 10
feet,
feet
right.
to any lot line. And they can move as far away from the lot line as they want, which is how that's how our other zoning districts work.
So we're just coming into.
So it's at least 10 feet away
Yes.
is how we would be interpreting that.
Yep. Now, the other one that we talked about a little bit was are we okay to move on off of setbacks? Tommy, okay?
Yep.
Okay, the other one we talked about was building height. And we raised the question, that's on page 71. And it tells us that the maximum could be 45 foot and the minimum could be 15 foot. And I raised the question of whether that was a fire safety issue or not. And I'm told that the fire trucks can service buildings up to, say, 150 feet. They got 150 foot ladder.
No,
I believe
maximum for
77
them is
story.
about 75. So they have a 100-foot aerial on like a 8-foot tall truck, so your
Okay.
reach is 108. Problem is that you're dealing with your hypotenuse.
Yeah.
So in reality, you really service that 70 to 80 foot.
Yeah. So,
range.
and I raised the question because I said to myself, or I asked the question at our committee, what if somebody wanted to build a 6-foot structure in there, or a 5-foot structure?
you mean,
Story, yeah. I'm sorry. A 6-foot or 5-story building, we're telling them now that they can't do that because we got a 45-foot height maximum. And 45 foot barely accommodates 4-foot high structure, or
4-story structure.
Excuse me. So I wondered whether we needed to tweak this, and I just thought I'd bring it up for conversation.
I don't think you'd wanna. If 70 feet is the max, you want that 70 feet to be clearly well above whatever that is, so you can direct.
And to be clear, once you get over, I forget what the number is. I've done one high-rise building that was in Geneva. Once you get over, I believe it's 60 feet, then you're classified as a true high-rise. Where your fire code responsibilities go crazy. Once you get into a true high-rise, I've unfortunately been on the receiving end of a few high-rise fires. You're not really using the ladder for a whole lot. Generally, the majority that I see are between 8 is really the highest in areas
So
like this.
if we're eliminating the fire potential, we have to talk about aesthetic potential. Then do we want 5, 6, whatever story building in it?
Well, leave it where it is, and if somebody wants to put a 6-story, let them come in and plead the case. And one variance.
One note that I think would be informative for the committee is that was one of the comments to the planning board in relation to was the
In
height
relation to what?
uptown, the height of the buildings being high.
But my opinion, those were not my backyard people. So, I mean, right, no, I was there to meet
There's
you,
only a
right,
few
right.
people that
Right.
did, so that was.
Right.
In the section where uptown is, the
What?
max
It
height
was
is
an
50 feet.
unsolicited opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say that again, sir, please.
In the section of the form-based code along Fire Hall Road where uptown's being proposed, the max height is 60 feet.
60 feet?
So that's at least 5 stories, right?
That's 5.
About, yeah.
So,
About.
Is that acceptable from firemen?
Everything's acceptable.
Huh?
Everything's acceptable.
Preferred, let's use the word preferred then.
So then,
No, but
If we're 60 foot on Firehouse Road, should we be 60 foot on the 332 corridor?
I think the only reason they were proposed to be different back when they were talking about form-based code is like when you're in the area. I think it was like a gradual increase, so that when you're driving down the road, there's not a giant, building right, 10 feet away from the right of way. And I think if I'm remembering the discussions correctly, they thought that would look better. I don't think it was not a safety issue. It wasn't anything like that.
Just aesthetics.
Mhm, I believe,
I agree.
Form-based code is about it. so that-
right. So they
Right.
wanted to allow more height than we usually would allow, but do it in a slightly stepped back. Okay.
So along 332, there is a height restriction on, I did not bring my.
45
It's 45 feet,
45.
in the
4 stories.
corridor
Maybe.
that is.
45 foot doesn't give you an awful lot of, space to run your mechanicals in. That's only giving you about 11 foot per story.
So in just the red
Mhm.
is where, so which it's both sides of 332 and then back as far as Summers Drive and to Fire Hall Road, the west side of Fire Hall Road. The east side of Fire Hall Road and the yellow at 60 feet. Max height. So
That's
it's
332. Probably going if somebody putting a tall building there. Unless Carter only put belly up and leave. It really happens.
Right,
So
so leave it the way it
Leave
is,
it,
or,
leave it as is then?
I would.
I would.
I mean, if somebody came in and wanted to build 60 foot, they can.
They would apply
special
for a
use,
variance
Variance, okay,
with
so,
the zoning board and
Yeah.
plead their case and then move on to the planning board if they got it.
Tom?
I agree, leave it the way it is, and as was suggested, if somebody comes up with a bang up proposal. That wants to go higher, let them go to the zoning board.
Moving on. The next issue we had was transparency.
Yep.
75% seemed to be pretty restrictive in terms of what could be designed within that. So I'll just kind of open that up and just say, are we willing to relax that a little bit?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
What?
what is the
Yeah,
question?
two is the question.
Well, it depends on what it is that's being constructed. Single family home is 75% transparency.
Crazy,
Glass houses are not
There-
supposed to live in.
That's not what,
The issue
That's
is more
not-
with residential. trying
Yeah.
to get
so
part-time.
single family homes are not allowed in that part of the form-based
Well,
code.
But even, didn't we run into somebody,
Yeah, Parkside.
yeah, where they wanted to build
Yeah, they
the
asked for a
apartment building.
variance. Yep.
The actual physical construction technique would be used. You couldn't have that much glass and use
Parkside Drive,
an appropriate construction.
it's 50%.
Yeah, on the, right.
and they
And
couldn't
they
construct
asked
something,
for, they didn't want to, because they didn't want to use what was steel construction or whatever.
Yeah.
It can be done, they just,
didn't want to do it.
no, and they
But
asked
With
for,
50%, they didn't want to do it?
no, I think they asked for 30.
30?
I think that, I don't remember exactly, but it was, they got a variance to have less.
So that just cost them time.
Yeah, they got it, and then they didn't build anyway, but that's not why.
But that higher transparency is really. Well, to
It's
me,
like
when we were going through this with commercial storefront.
It's like a storefront, so like downtown Canandaigua,
Yeah.
right? You've got your
Yeah,
glass
yeah.
windows up front. It's that idea, that's the look.
Anything that's gonna be used for residential, like storefront on bottom and second floor, third floor, gonna be residential, because you can have mixed use. You don't necessarily want, maybe you want 50 or 70% on that first floor, but up there, no, you just want normal.
Right.
whatever.
It's Pinnacle North with a little storefronts there, is that 70%,
I have no idea.
50%, but it's more? But I think that, to me, that's the look at first floor, you wanna have commercial space or not, or get a variance to not have it. But I think you wanna have that transparency.
The roadside.
An
Yeah.
upper story right
80%?
now is a minimum of 60% for second floor up. And that's measured from 2 feet above the
Floor level.
floor to, I think,
60%
10.
transparency,
upper story,
upper story.
only in 332. For
Which would be the apartment.
the other section, it's 50% minimum on the ground story and 40% minimum on the upper story, which is in the sub area, which is all the yellow in that map.
Mhm.
Definitely want to get the drapery construction.
The transparencies.
Did Uptown Landing ask for relief from that requirement?
From transparency,
Transparency?
The only
yes.
one that asked for it that I'm aware of is that.
Yes.
One development that didn't move forward there on Parkside.
So Uptown did for
Yes.
their,
They were
apartments.
granted relief from the transparency. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know what they asked for.
supported the incentive zoning.
Yes, they're not in the 332, they're in the yellow
Yellow
one.
area, right.
Which- What did
So
they
that was
reduce it
50%?
to?
I don't have it in front of me. I don't.
Is that-
So that for the
may be a good
apartment,
number,
apartment townhouses, they asked for that?
flex space, I think.
I don't have it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Because
memorize.
you wouldn't think that we'd have
this.
that transparent issues with a house, a single family home. That doesn't, that's not in there, right?
What?
That kind of transparency for a single family home like Uptown.
It's based on the zoning district, not what the building is.
This is the only district, we have a transparency requirement, right? We don't
Yeah,
have
no
any
other
other
zoning
district, so
district does it, because no other zoning district is form-based
You could
code,
have
form
a
over
house
function, right, or not
center
over,
block.
form instead of what's happening, what it looks like rather than what they're doing.
But in the sub area where the housing, single family housing is gonna be. I can't remember, is there a number for that transparency?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, they asked for a reduction and got it.
They
Remember you guys
sought out a
like-
variance
Reduction from what?
from the
So
transparency
Uptown
number that we're
is-
giving them, like, it's like 50%, right?
So Uptown is proposed in the mixed use sub area of the form-based code, which would require ground story transparency of 50%. You know, they have a little picture of what that might look like, and an upper story of 40%. Town board granted them relief and they got it. I don't remember what the number is.
But that photo there, or that rendering isn't single family house.
This, yes, that's a
It is.
single family home.
It is, yeah.
Oh, I was looking.
It's the example
This is the
for
sub area, this is
transparency.
not,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's
But this is
really
where
Uptown
Uptown's
discussion, not
building,
what
they
you
got a
guys.
variance, right, which to me,
they did get a variance, you just don't know the
They didn't get a variance.
Or
You
not
guys
variance.
gave them
reduction.
a relief from that. I don't remember what the number is that they agreed on.
It's like any typical house, I mean, I don't.
Right. I have no idea what.
Let's,
10%,
I have a suggestion to kind of close the conversation on this. How about we not propose anything here at this table today, but we ask that you check what we did approve, Sarah? And if there's any, maybe you'd have conversations with some, I don't know, people that do work in the area and ask what a reasonable number is and then come back and let us know what you've learned. Does that sound like a reasonable conclusion?
I mean, you guys have the incentive zoning information that as a town board you granted. So you already have that.
But we don't seem to recall what we approved.
So I guess I would have to ask. How important is that transparency number?
It's important if you care what it looks like.
And it's important if you care about the cost of construction.
It's important for both.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
it's
though?
going to change the way
So,
someone
It sounds like
proposes
it's
the
more
building.
expensive,
It is more expensive to have greater transparency.
right?
Windows cost more. The structure will cost more if you need to build it differently to
Yeah.
accommodate the larger windows.
Right.
No need to-
So if we did nothing, if we said, put no number down for transparency and the planning board looked at this and said, hey, that's not enough transparency, that's not good enough?
Planning board can't require transparency unless the code requires it.
Well, I guess we gotta have it.
So just a quick note, because I found it. So they were granted minimum transparency for ground story of a single family of 10%. Upper stories of 20%. Townhomes, ground story of 5%, upper stories of 15%. Apartments, ground story of 30%, upper story of 25%.
That's what we approved.
Mixed use, ground story of 60%. With upper stories of 25%.
Doors on 10%.
Single family townhomes.
Sounds like a cave.
For the single family home, that doesn't sound unreasonable.
Right.
So should we replicate those same numbers?
I'm a little hesitant to go 5.
I think it would be helpful if you found something that showed you what that looked like. Like, this is helpful when you can visualize, what is that gonna look like in a building? Here's what it looks like in a single family home. Here's what it looks like in a, commercial storefront.
So I can tell you the 5 is because of their architectural designs,
Mhm.
because they're 2-story townhomes. So your first story is a garage and a front door. Maybe.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
Okay. So that's why that one's very low. Now, if you did like a Piercebrook townhome, you're probably more looking about 15%. But. when you're
Well, that
going
makes-
up
that makes-
instead of out.
That makes sense then, I mean, you don't, the garage is there, I mean, how many windows are you gonna put in that?
So.
Well,
So do we lower it, and if they want lower than that, get a variance?
I was just gonna say, that being the case, maybe we should just leave it as is, and then let people come in with a variance and show what the structure is gonna look like. And have the planning board review it, and then have the town.
So would that scare developers away? Those requirements?
Oh, we haven't had,
Depends on what you're looking for.
yeah,
I mean, we had the one car dealer.
I don't think it scares car dealerships away, right?
No,
They're
I'm
full of
not-
glass.
I'm not worried about that, like,
But we had the one car shop. On 332, where they could have met it, but they just didn't want to,
Yeah,
because same thing, they didn't wanna put glass in their garage doors, where if they just
like
did.
what Jiffy Lube does. They
Yeah.
said no.
Even if they did small glass sections, they would have met it. They just didn't want to. So it goes back to what do you want as ordinance and then subsequently the town board to really look at.
well, to me, I don't care, I mean. Do we wanna see into the muffler shop, or do you wanna close the door? I don't know that one is any better looking than another.
And that's one.
Right.
That, those numbers that you're citing, I'm like, what was that for though? Was that for?
Uptown.
It's just, yeah, it's for uptown.
That's
Only
So
uptown
that's-
landing.
Yeah,
Yep.
So they're residentially, but, yeah, those numbers seem. You're giving them a range that should work. I mean, I don't know if you.
Well, they selected the
not
range, I
built
mean,
into
they
this.
came to us with the range, and I'm good with that.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
That's
But
significantly
should that be
different
built
than
in
what we
here?
got here.
Significantly different.
Yeah, but should we take that out and put this in?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's a reasonable solution for the sub area.
Good.
And then for the main area, or the 332 corridor, I don't mean to say main, but the 332 corridor, do we leave it as is, or do we really relax this a little bit?
70%.
75 and 60.
I'd leave it there and somebody can do it. I mean, what else is gonna be built there? Another car dealership or another?
They're gonna want
Somebody that
glass.
wants glass, you'll see. I'd leave it and if somebody has
What Vision Commons
another
is.
request, let them come in, we'll talk.
And we can always come back, and if we get more requests, address this at a later time. Sure. Tom, what's your thoughts? I haven't heard from you yet.
I think leave it. And if a proposal comes in that makes sense, let them go for a variance. The market's really ultimately gonna determine how much glass they're gonna need or want, or what's appropriate for the occupancy.
Okay.
The
I mean-
only thing will we scare people away? If we won't scare people away, then let's just leave it,
Well, right, if it does scare people away, we address it.
right?
I don't think variances scare developers away. It may scare a single family homeowner, but you know, developers are used to variances. It's just part of doing business. If they
So,
come in with something that makes sense, the zoning board will approve it and Chuck will make it run.
so I guess what I'm hearing then is modify the mixed use development sub area to what we approved and leave the 332 corridor for transparency as is.
So essentially, it's the yellow area is gonna change,
Fine.
the red area is gonna remain the same.
Red area remains in.
Which is the tougher part.
Yeah,
Okay, and I think the last thing was the setbacks for the,
Okay, hold on,
okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I just want to make sure I understand what you want. So in the mixed use sub area, there's different transparency requirements for residential structures than there are for commercial and mixed use structures. So the commercial and mixed use buildings in the mixed use development sub area have the same transparency requirements as the Route 332 sub area for commercial and mixed use buildings.
I think what we just modified it though to say what we said in the, what the board approved for Uptown. Which I think, if I heard Mike correctly, does talk about first floor residential, first floor commercial.
mix.
And a mixed use, right?
Correct.
So it addresses all those areas.
So you're saying for your mixed use, drop it down, for instance, from, what's it, 75
It's
on the ground floor?
75 ground floor, upper story 60%, just the same as that on
So
332
you're saying alter that.
for non-residential.
60% and then 25.
Yep, whatever we already approved.
The one would be, because this is different for single family townhomes and apartments. And how did you wanna,
And what I'm saying is that you're gonna modify this language in the book and bring it back to us
Okay.
for consideration again. And then if you have challenges along the way, then identify those challenges and we'll figure it out at the next meeting.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep.
We all good with that?
Mhm.
Okay, the other thing I thought we saw was the building setbacks for the mixed use development sub area. And for everybody's benefit, it's 5 foot now for primary. Well, the primary side,
Me one,
street,
two.
side interior and rear are all the same with a 5 foot minimum and a 20-foot max. In my way of thinking, I think that ought to probably be 10-foot minimums and no maximums, the same as the 332 area and the same as most of our residential areas. But open for discussion.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
sorry, I was a little bit behind on notes.
That's
So you
okay.
just like summarize.
So on page 76.
Yeah.
They call out for building setbacks for all the definitions, which are primary street, side interior, and rear. As 5 foot minimums with a 20-foot maximum. And I think what we're saying is, let's be consistent and say a 10-foot minimum and no maximums.
Do we know of any existing lots that could not meet those setback requirements?
Uptown.
What do you mean?
You-
Oh, yeah.
Uptown's
We
fine.
we already granted them. We already granted
Yes.
them.
So Uptown is a 5 foot minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
And me personally, I'm okay with that. When they came to us, asked for something, gave us something. So
you want to make it more restrictive for setbacks.
meaning 10 feet.
Yeah, right now they can be as close as 5 feet to the lot line. You're saying they can't do that anymore. They have to be at least 10 feet away.
That remains consistent with the rest of our code.
No, it only remains consistent with the form-based code.
What's, if I want to build a house, what's the setback?
Depends on what zoning district you're in.
They're saying uniform is.
R1.
From base.
I don't have it memorized.
But it's like 20 feet or something, isn't it?
No, they're all over the place.
Yeah, the minimum I think is 10. I believe for residential.
Form base.
Only in the form-based code, not anywhere else in the town.
Everywhere else in the town is 10 or greater.
It's different for every zoning
I
district.
understand, but I don't think.
Some
there's
of them are
minimum.
50, some of them are 60.
There's none that have a minimum of less than 10.
No, only the form-based code is 10.
Okay.
The others are all bigger. But
So
they're
what-
rural. you know,
Sarah, what are,
it's
it sounds like you're advocating for 5 feet. What are the perils of 10 feet?
I just want to make sure you know you're making it more restrictive. Is that what you want? I'm just clear. I want to know
No,
what to
I'm with you.
provide
I'm
with
with
you,
you. I'm
you
with you.
guys when we come back with a.
Sticker, you're supposed to start at the edge of the sticker.
So I think the difference is that.
I'll get a knife.
Compared to 10, you're gonna have.
Give it to me, I'll get a knife.
density. Okay. I mean. think
But it's
about
5 foot now,
Correct.
right?
Well, think about town with your single family. If you switch that over to 10 foot. What's that for every 12 lots, let's say,
You lose one, right?
Okay. So your density will decrease. Now, the original plan was to have this be more dense than your other zoning districts.
Yeah, it was intentional.
So. That'd be the only reason for,
Changing it.
yes, would be if you wanted less density.
I'm flexible on this. I don't have strong
See,
feelings.
how- Right now, it's 5 feet. You take it to 10 feet setback from the lot line.
Yep.
Front lot line. How does that reduce the number of?
From front,
Yeah.
well, you're gonna lose it because the whole block concept within form-based code of having to build out your blocks. So even if you did 5 in the front or 10 from the front, same with the sides, ultimately it's gonna increase the size of your lots.
Fewer houses.
And so you're gonna have fewer houses in the one area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, me it does.
The lots are 60 feet wide.
In Uptown.
Right now, they could be 5
Actually.
5 feet all the way
proposals
around. The minimum.
Yep.
So if it's 60 feet wide, you got 10 feet on each side, that leaves you 40 feet. For the house.
Yep.
It's,
But if you drop it down to 5,
So,
it is 5.
so I just got what Carrie's saying. They're all laid out at 60 feet.
Yeah.
So what difference does it matter if it's 5 feet or 10 feet? It's still 60 feet, it's still a 60-foot
because
lot.
you can't build the same house.
Right, you can only build a
House will be
40-foot
10
wide
feet.
house versus a 50-foot wide house.
So you just smaller house
Or bigger lot.
or bigger lot.
That's.
But I hear what you're saying, Terry. I hear what you're saying.
So if you had the lot,
In the rest of the mixed use sub area, not Uptown, but whatever's left of it, right now your lots are 100 foot by 100 foot minimum.
But we've given through incentive zoning, relief down to 60 feet.
Correct.
So,
For them, but this,
You
I mean,
wanna
that
build a
doesn't
house
really
that's
apply
more than-
here, because you're just talking about the area that's left,
Yeah,
not Uptown.
right. Which area is more?
quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Everything that is in this yellow area, so Uptown Landing is taking up this chunk here, pretty much.
So the other 4 sections.
So it's up here and down to the south, so north and south of Uptown area.
I don't know that I want, me personally, I don't know that I want to change that because I think incentive zoning can play a role that I think we want it to play.
Yeah,
I'm okay with leaving it too.
Yeah.
well, that's like, let's wait and see.
Yeah, right.
How about the maximum? Should we eliminate the maximum?
Yeah, right now it's 20.
But that would have no bearing on density.
No.
Yeah, I'm okay with eliminating it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with eliminating
Anyone
Yeah,
else?
as long as they meet the rear yard setbacks
Right,
on a
right.
100-foot lot, so yeah, it doesn't matter where in the lot they set the house.
So we kind of said 10 feet on that, right?
10 foot, well,
Right.
5 or 10.
Not now,
feet
it's
in front.
5.
And max would be, was right now 20, you say eliminate the max, so they could be 50 if they wanted to.
Right.
Right. 20-foot house and then still meet the rear yard setback. What's the rear yard setback in the form base, single family, or doesn't it have?
It is, it's all the same, no matter whether it's side
It's all five.
Primary, rear, it's, right now it's, at least 5 feet away, no more than 20 feet away.
If somebody wanted to create a backyard, this kind of minimizes their opportunity to do so.
Side yard can't be more than 20, your rear yard can't be more than 20.
No, probably ain't gonna be much, but
Well, I think you need a side yard, rear yard setback,
You have one.
yeah.
yeah,
But 5
Well, we
feet.
have a minimum, we don't have a max,
we do have a maximum of 20 foot.
yeah, but we were talking about getting rid of it.
I think we ought to, yeah, just leave it.
I'm okay. with that. I just don't wanna be more restricted.
So you want to eliminate the maximum?
Yeah.
The,
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah,
So the one, and not to throw a wrench in it, it's gonna be your lot coverage. Your building coverage.
It gives you flexibility to move the house.
It does, but if I'm the developer and I can put 90% lot coverage on that lot,
you can't, you have,
or what do you
you
got?
can do 80.
Let's see it.
Building coverage is 70% max and lot coverage is 80% max. Remember, form-based code is more lenient
Mhm.
with coverage.
That's just the one thing that I would suggest looking into to make sure that we're not creating
So
nest parts.
60 foot by 100 foot
I
lot.
don't think the
No,
setbacks are gonna change
No,
what they
they're
were
allowed.
allowed to do.
Well, I mean, with uptown,
Oh, that's 65, yeah.
It's, you know, they're still gonna have
they still
that.
go by that lot coverage.
I believe they do. Uptown Landing is still at that lot coverage.
No,
I scratch what I said, sorry. Just forget it. Just scratch what I said.
Well, no, I was
Lot
just
coverage.
gonna say, if it's 70%.
Yeah.
You got a 6,000 square foot lot. It'd be the house would be 4,000 square feet over. None of these houses, they're like 1,500-1,600 square feet back,
Yeah,
from what I remember, you know. Uptown Landing is set, really.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is that other areas, if, who knows what somebody might wanna do there.
Yeah, it's part of their package theory. They submitted
So-
renderings of the houses they're gonna build and nothing for that. Nothing that goes
yeah,
on.
what did they? I can't
yeah,
find
so
it.
just for
Two.
instance, the building setbacks for single family lots for uptown. Is primary street is 25 foot minimum, no maximum, side street of 20 foot minimum, no maximum. Side interior, 5 foot minimum, no maximum, rear is 20 foot minimum, no maximum. Minimum side setbacks for driveways shall be 5.
so we're consistent if we take away the no maximum here.
I think
Yeah.
this yellow area will be less restrictive than the uptown single family homes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, it already is, so
Yeah. I think that's good.
what do
Any-
they do for lot coverage?
Building coverage was reduced from 70 to 50.
What'd you say?
Your committee has.
It's more restrictive.
Well, I was just gonna ask
They did it
you,
because
if
they
everybody was good
squeezed
with
more
that.
lots in.
Committee isn't here. It's
What?
for you.
I'm here.
The form-based code committee.
Oh, basically,
You, Jared and Joe.
Yeah, they were good with it, so I'm not. And we'll find out at the town board meeting when we bring it to them. Okay, is there anything else in form-based code we should be talking about?
we talked about
Sign.
procedure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we were gonna make it all encompassing. If we're gonna do a revision of the form-based code. Let's change the how we get there.
I'm gonna get you bouncing back to the town board. See,
Which is a burden on applicants and.
So, yeah, right now, the process for, you know, developments, not for something small, but anything over 5,000 square feet. Includes a trip to the town board, and the town board doesn't make a decision, it just looks at it and can make comments. I don't feel like that's necessary.
yeah.
So is there any point in the process that an application would come to the town board?
Should it?
I don't know.
Developments now don't unless it's something like incentive zone.
Mhm.
From a planning perspective, no. It doesn't need, especially since the town board, the process right now doesn't give them an opportunity to be a deciding factor. It's just a comment.
More or less a referral.
Right,
Something has to
Not
be.
really, well, kind of,
just
yeah.
takes up another month.
It adds
Let
quite a
me
bit.
just, create an analogy and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, okay? If a residential home right now meets all of the design, or let me say the ordinances,
Code.
right? It goes to the planning board reviews it and approves it. If a commercial development meets all of the requirements, it goes to planning board for review and approval, and then it goes to town board. That's what we're saying, I think.
In the form-based code only.
Right,
Everywhere else,
Okay.
yeah,
Same,
it doesn't
yeah.
need the town.
So,
And then back to plan.
and then it goes
Right.
back to planning board. So if it's, why do we need to do that? We
well, I
don't.
think we eliminate.
So,
I mean,
I'll
Chuck,
tell
what do
you
you, what do
why
you
it
hear from
was.
people? What do you hear from people?
It's
How is it?
It's too burdensome.
Yes, so
It's
this is too
confusing.
burdensome.
I mean, to apply, have it go to town board asks for a referral from planning board says, we agree with it, then you say, okay, it's okay to go to site plan subdivision, come back to the planning board. That's
Too much.
So just eliminate that step for the planning. board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I'm
reason
open
it's the
to it.
town
And the
board
time,
feels.
when the town board was adopting this form-based code, it was so new, I think they were just nervous and they didn't want to relinquish control. So they wrote in that step to keep them involved. It's not necessary for, the planning board. The town board is always welcome to provide comment during review. So yeah, from like a process standpoint, the development office, no, we don't feel that it needs to go to the town board.
The conversation at that time was, let's do it this way and see what happens. Things proceed smoothly, we could eliminate it in the future. Well,
One thing.
Now we see
The
it.
future, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so one
we're
thing
here.
is that also that's kind of impractical for actual application of this, is it also requires a sketch review prior to a full-on review from the planning board. If you remove the town board portion of the process and it would still require a sketch review from the planning board, which is a non-decision making meeting. And then
Fine,
site
which
plan.
We do
review.
for most large developments anyway.
But this really isn't a large development. 5,000 square feet.
Oh, okay, well,
I know what you're saying for like an uptown, it makes perfect sense. Here's perfect sense, but if I wanted to build.
Okay.
A trainer. That's,
okay, then leave it to the option of the applicant, whether they want to go through the sketch plan.
In my
We usually- you
experience
usually
watching you
recommend that if it's
guys,
something that
yeah,
is
I mean,
big.
observing the planning board over the last few years, without actually calling it that, you guys end up kind of doing that anyway. Because someone will propose a site plan application and you guys almost never approve it in the first meeting when it's something large. You usually continue it and they come back. So it kind of serves as a sketch anyway. I think, like Murphy said, it depends on the project.
that's even for if you wanted to do a 5,000 square feet addition. It's
Yeah,
for
new
residential
construction
units.
or building and expansions encompassing 5,000 square feet or more. Or new construction or building expansions proposing 4 or more residential units.
Okay. Then leave it up to the
No,
applicant.
actually, even the smaller ones require a separate sketch plan.
Current.
But in our office, we typically don't make them fill out a sketch plan application and a site plan application.
So you
Because that
recommend,
doesn't make any sense. We just make them fill out the site plan application and tell them that their first step is a sketch review. Which most of the larger developments don't even question. It would be a smaller one that would wonder why, yeah.
so I think, Sarah, you're hearing from this committee that we're flexible about that. So if you want to eliminate that sketch plan then from the smaller ones.
Perhaps leave it at the discretion of the planning board.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
So we do.
I I'm fully in favor of making this process simpler. Without removing, any safety nets. I think that would be okay. If the project comes to the planning board and they need more time, you'd say so.
Yeah. As far as if the town board wants to be in the loop, we could always have a referral to town board.
You always have that option anyway.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't think
if
it
it's a
would need
large
to be
enough
written in.
development in the
Right.
FBC, we can refer it to you and you can discuss it at a meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea, honestly. I think that remove that step of it mandatory and just be at the planning. board.
Agreed.
We hear these things anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You
If
hear.
this was the city of Rochester.
Yeah, yeah.
Something, you might not hear about it, but this is Canandaigua, so. Single family home being built here and there, no, we don't hear about it.
Yeah.
Well, we frequently do hear about it.
You heard about Uptown
But-
Landing before we did.
Anything that's of any substance, it's gonna be, well, known.
Thanks for bringing that up, Chuck. I wouldn't miss it.
Okay, well.
Tom, anything else you have?
No, I think you gotta simplify the process. Let Chuck's group handle it. And if you've got a whopper of a project, you're gonna have a workshop with the developer, with the planning board, and with the town board anyways.
Agreed. Sarah, you gonna have enough there from us?
Yeah, I think so.
Anything else you want to review?
Just for the committee's sake, there will be some other things that staff recommends.
Oh, yeah.
That I don't think we need to get into.
Yeah.
With minor things like we noticed.
Anything that's
there's
causing you guys
issues with
angst.
sign- Or with signs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Issues with
signage.
landscaping. It requires bike parking for a single family lot. Why?
That was probably an oversight.
Yeah, just minor oversights.
Yeah.
The biggest one that I think, just to clarify, would be Uptown requested the allowance of vinyl siding on their single family homes.
Materials
Form-based code
requirements.
does not. I think that's one that we should start allowing, because it allows for wood shake, I forget what the other ones were.
Oh, I had it.
Brick,
Stucco.
stucco,
Want the mixed use sub area
Yeah.
materials?
it was very specific.
It's,
With, everyone knows, when you go to single family residential, it's vinyl siding.
so
Really
vinyl
not
siding
super.
is allowed in the mixed use sub area, but not more than 40% of the facade.
And the other thing is, vinyl siding is not defined like it used to be. So in other words, there's a lot of vinyl products now. So if you say vinyl siding, does that mean some of these vinyl shakes they make,
Right.
as an example?
So that's just a big one that I think from a staff perspective, we would appreciate.
Yep.
Especially if you're 5 feet with wood shake, that doesn't work.
So you can come to us with
Yep.
a list of those
Yep.
and, okay, good. Let's move on.
You go put all this over the
One revision.
those little.
We'll have a red line version of the form-based code document showing what we propose to be changed.
Okay,
I don't know if it's gonna be looking like this, but
We can condense it down.
for every page, what's being proposed, which pages are being proposed, I guess. is
that'd be great.
Built to.
Yeah.
I put this next one on the agenda only because I couldn't recall what we had done with it. And this was, we allowed detached garages of greater than 900 square foot in every zoning area but the RLD. And I thought that we had talked in the ordinance committee that we were comfortable having that be allowed in the RLD as long as the person had enough property to accommodate all of the other zoning restrictions, such as side setbacks, rear setbacks, lot coverage, building coverage. And I couldn't recall if we had brought this to close or not, but am I recollecting that conversation accurately?
I recollect it that way, so.
Yes,
Okay, but I don't know if we did anything with this.
No, because we went back to look at the laws that were adopted, and the last one about garages was the one you mentioned that
Yeah.
already happened. The RLB specific, came up as a discussion, but
Yep.
didn't move forward.
So would it be possible for you to create some language to,
Kim sent it out last week in your,
We got it behind you.
pardon me?
We got it behind
It's-
you.
It's in the packet,
you guys already got it.
yeah.
Oh, that's right, you had a one paragraph thing, didn't you?
Yeah, it's just removing
One
the no
sentence.
larger than 900 square feet. So
Kim,
It would
could
still be
you
a
zoom
full
in a little bit on that? I mean, I have it in front of me, but I don't know.
Perfect, thank you. Everybody okay with this?
Yep,
One detached and one attached. You could have both.
Say
Well,
you
we-
have both,
We don't ever really, I mean, if an attached private garage is considered to be part of the primary single family home. And we don't dictate the size of that. Only in the RLD would be dictated by lot coverage limitations and building coverage limitations.
So let me ask this question only because that last half of the paragraph. It says in one attached private garage. Do we want to restrict that? I know in my personal instance, I have 2 attached garages.
because we don't look at the attached garages as an accessory structure.
They're just part of the house.
why do we have that in there at all then?
So then should we eliminate that
Right,
line right there?
I would, I'd say eliminate it,
Just that last part, right?
Yeah.
one
16
attached,
feet
right,
wide And one attached, we'll eliminate from the and on.
right,
So having the number one present saying one detached private garage just prohibits somebody from having 2 detached private garages or more.
No, I'm comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that,
One.
yeah. Period at the end of feet and eliminate the rest.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
You got that?
Yeah, I have it in front of me.
Tom, you okay?
I can't see what you're referring to, but I am comfortable with what was sent out and the permitted accessory uses, just eliminate the 900 square feet.
So what we're saying is what you're looking at there, after it says 16 foot, eliminate the rest of the sentence. The and one attached private garage may be permitted. Eliminate that.
That's fine.
So now that we
Okay.
have the interpreted what's attached and what's not. Where it can't just be a breezeway, you know what I'm saying?
We already defined that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever. paid attention.
No, I think we just redline.
Oh, I just mean like when someone proposes a house, I don't count how many.
That issue is not going to arise very often, for sure.
Great. We okay?
Yep.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Did we get any attorney comments on the cemetery code?
I did not see that.
You want me to call Chris and find out the status?
I sent, I asked them to comment on it, so,
You want to follow up with him?
sure.
Next bullet. Accessory structure definition, remove generators if time permits. This one, I think, is a little tricky. And here's where I think it's tricky. What we're suggesting is currently, generators are not allowed to be in that setback area. And you jump in and correct me if I missay anything, okay, please, Sarah? I think what we're asking is whether we're gonna be comfortable allowing generators to be included in that side setback space. Am I saying that accurately?
I think for the most part,
Double-edged sword, really. It's
Yeah.
that, and then the other one being the section that we just amended on accessory uses.
Yeah.
Only allows your 100-foot shed, your detached private garage, and one other accessory structure. And so if you had a patio or a free floating deck, Well, now you can't have a generator without getting a variance for another accessory structure.
And then it often ended up on a smaller lot being 2 variance requests because it sticks out from the house and it doesn't meet the side setback. So they want the additional accessory structure and they need some extra space on the side. So these variance requests are pretty much always granted. Any fire and safety issues are handled by code enforcement. So if they're proposing it in a way that's too close or unsafe, you're gonna have a comment, right?
My comments honestly have always been denial on every single one. Because you're limiting the property rights of the neighbors.
That's kind of my thought. And why-
Because if you have a generator, you're supposed to be 5 feet away from all vents, windows, et cetera, et cetera. And so then your variance is now forever inhibiting the possibility of a variance for a neighbor to build closer to the lot line.
Right, but I mean, I
So-
guess what I'm saying is any closer than 5 feet, your office is probably going to deny it, right?
No, you can't.
You can't.
There's nothing in code that says you have to. What I'm saying is we've always recommended denial to the zoning board, and the zoning board has always granted,
Yeah,
looking at our referral. So,
My concern as, I guess, saying it as a builder, these generators take up a lot of space. Generally, at least 5 foot. And they have to be run regularly. And they're loud. And when they have to run, they gotta run for quite a while, generally an hour or so. And that, to me, seems to be a little bit of an encumbrance on the neighbor. I just don't know how everybody else thinks about that or feels about that, so.
I agree with you. I mean, we have one, I think it only runs for 20 minutes, but it's loud. I mean, you know it's running. And if you're 10 feet away from, that's a little rough.
also.
well, in the
especially if there's a-
MLD, you can already, for some of these lots, be like 8-10 feet to the property line with them.
Well, Uptown Landing, we were just talking about, houses are all cheap. to
Put some
sell.
generators in there.
Well, they probably should put it behind the house.
And I would also note that, I mean, we saw about 100 generators last year. We're not seeing the Generac, quiet, simple, they can run your small house. I just had a Cummins generator on the lakeside. Ask for a permit. That thing will be loud, very loud. So, yeah.
Diesel.
It takes a lot to, it takes a lot to power up these houses, and they're doing full house, not partial.
When you recommend denial to the zoning board, so the zoning board generally approves the,
I recommend denial on a lot of
you know,
variances.
but is you're recommending denial because of setback issues or some other?
Yes, because, so part of fire code NFPA is that a generator cannot exhaust within 5 feet of a vent into a structure, a window, any openings. So if you allow a generator to be built 1 foot off the property line, well, now you're inhibiting what can be built 4 feet from
On the
the
other
neighbor's side,
Yeah,
which to me is a very large issue. That I don't wanna go into much more.
So it's not for noise or for?
No, because we don't have a noise ordinance, there's
Yeah.
nothing in there for that. It's purely just because you're inhibiting what the neighbor can do.
How does, what the reasoning of the zoning board, how do they
Necessity,
dismiss the?
necessity, and that's all. Which I
I would say that that's convenience, not necessity, because if you're on the side, you could go in the front and then involve your own,
know you
Issue.
can't.
why,
'Cause
Oh, in
where
the
we-
front.
Yeah.
and then in the back. I mean, just more
Unless you're
wiring,
short,
right,
yeah.
right.
There's limitations. They
Right.
say it's a necessity because of the amount of power outages. We've been at Butler for how many months now and haven't lost power, so. I don't know how much you lose power, but
Couple times a year.
yeah, it's not. I mean, when they were coming to us, we're losing power every single week, and I'm like. Okay.
No.
Maybe during the major windstorms, but. everyone
that's
is.
when we started getting a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the zoning board has granted every single one.
Well, I think the other reason you're getting a lot of them is because of people's concern that there's gonna be a shut off of the gas.
Yeah.
That powers these generators, so people wanna rush and get them installed before the no gas law takes effect.
So is there a way to
Same for
make
ourselves.
changes so that it doesn't count against the accessory structure limits in the RLD, but still keeps the setbacks in
I
place?
think you could amend the same section that we just approved to say one detached private garage, one shed, one generator.
Specifically call it out.
Specifically call it out as a generator. and call it a day.
If we wanna allow generators in the setback.
No, that
No,
would
that
still
wouldn't.
make the setbacks. That just would
Okay.
eliminate the need for variance if they have,
or a generator,
if they have
Right.
other accessory structures.
right?
Okay,
So you would still have to meet the setbacks.
so a generator would be an accessory structure.
It would be eliminated from me to go for,
Right now, it's considered an accessory.
Yeah.
It would be
Yes.
called out as specifically permitted
Yes,
and not counting towards your
accessory. structure.
number of accessory structures allowed in the RLD.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm not sure I'm comfortable letting it be in that setback. area.
I'm not either, I don't wanna see that.
Tom, how do you feel about that?
I agree with you guys. I don't like it in the setback.
How about you, Chuck?
Not unless they get a variance.
Which
Well, it sounds like they get.
they get it every time, but you know what might be helpful is a memo from this committee
To,
sharing your position with the zoning board and the town board. I mean, maybe the zoning board doesn't know how strongly you feel,
I think it's unanimous.
So far, I'm hearing all of us say that.
but they don't have to listen. They can just keep doing it anyway, but
Right, we can't. tell them
information
that.
sharing may make them take pause.
Let me ask you a question. I think that's a great idea, and I'm comfortable that we do that. I would ask, is it possible for someone on staff to draft a quick letter that we could review?
Draft a memo for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's a very reasonable request, and I think that I support that. I think we all are saying that we support it.
Cause I mean, everybody on the zoning board's reasonable, they'll listen, but it depends on who's providing a comment.
Yeah.
Whether or not they.
Most of the ones I've sat in on were the townhouses. Townhouses, it's tough to put because you had no side yards.
Right.
You gotta either put, well, I can't put in the front, so you gotta put in the back, and then you're underneath a window of a neighbor. And
Yeah, they're not
That's
saying
tough.
variance
That-
is inside of 5 feet to the
put them in
structure, are they?
townhomes.
No, well.
Right. Well, that should, that's.
I
a
don't
big
know if they
issue.
have, I have, right now, Sam's doing all my generators, so, but they won't get a bill. I mean,
Yeah.
you need a variance, but I'm not gonna issue.
Right,
Um,
cause that's a safety issue, that.
Yeah. so,
Um,
but similarly, you can put a generator out 20 feet from the structure, it just is gonna cost. you
More wire, right, yeah.
And plumbing and
Yeah.
wiring. So,
Attached accessory dwelling units.
John,
Or
I did,
detached.
Nava has no problem with the cemetery, so whatever that is, go forward with it.
I don't have,
I don't have it either.
I don't
I
have.
never had it to begin with.
Kim, that came from, I have it somewhere probably.
be honest, term again,
I sent that on to him.
This was all the stuff that Karen had brought up.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Haven't seen it.
I don't think anyone ever shared it with me unless it was
No,
forwarded.
'cause I think in the last ordinance, it was in the,
Was it in the attachments?
yes.
Okay, then maybe I just have.
Well, let me just pause here for a second and ask this question. We're getting close to 10:30. And we got further than I thought we were going to get today. And I'm wondering if we should put the cemetery code updates and the detached ADUs on our agenda for the next meeting and bring this meeting to a close today. Sound good?
Can I ask a question before
Yes,
we
please.
stop? On the, so for the generator discussion, are we scrapping the proposed as written? And then instead adding a line to the detached garage language.
Yeah, 220-21, or C.
I can't answer that specifically, sir, but conceptually, I think what you're hearing from the committee is that we don't want generators in the side setback, but we're willing to allow generators even if there's another accessory structure on the bill, on a property.
But we don't actually need to change the definition of accessory structure.
Are you okay with that going straight to the town board?
That one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead of coming back here?
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
Okay,
review
just
that.
because then we only touched 220-21 once.
That's fine.
Okay.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make sense?
Does that work for everybody? We call it pause here and pick it up again next month?
Just one note for the committee, just to keep everyone informed, the UDML changes. We're starting back up, so our first meeting is in a few weeks.
Remind me, you DNO.
Uniform docking and mooring law.
Oh,
Kevin Mulvaney is working with all the municipalities to come up with a new draft, so. This started about 1.5 years ago, and we stopped for a good year, and now we're starting it back, so. Just to keep everyone in the loop, I may have some things, I may not, we don't.
my only thought about that was years ago when I was on the zoning board, it came before us whether a dock was allowed to have 2 slips on one side. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, yep.
And I think that the strict interpretation of the language, the way it's written, the answer would be no.
Correct.
However, I think that ought to be allowed.
We do allow underneath the current interpretation.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Because I remember that was
Yeah.
a pretty in-depth conversation we had about that. And the strict interpretation was, no, it's not allowed. But I think it needs to be.
It's the way that it's written, there is that room, and right now we interpret it as, yes, it just has to meet these criteria as far as what.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Okay.
The setback from the line there, whatever it's called.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So just informational, I should have some more on that, and we'll see what the watershed and the municipalities come up with.
And our next meeting is March 3rd, right?
One more question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so you guys are comfortable with us moving bisected lots in the RLD on to the town board? Or you want to see it again?
Would everyone trust me reviewing that language and submitting it to the board?
I think we talked about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
issue with
yeah, I don't want to delay another month. You know,
That's the one where we said that it
Footprint
had to
versus
be.
footprint,
building coverage.
square footage.
Yeah, clarify it a little bit so that
Yeah.
it says what you wanted.
Fine.
I would say just send that to me, I'll comment on it, and I'll send it to everyone else for their information.
Okay, and then detached garage size in the RLD and allowing a generator in the RLD also.
Yes, same thing.
Okay, and then the other one, the form-based code, we're gonna prepare the changes and bring it back.
Yes,
I just sent you the cemetery thing that Karen sent me that Chris signed off on, so we
It's
can do
ready as is.
That's what
Okay.
Chris just said.
So you want
Okay.
to do town board for cemetery instead of.
You guys are good with that, right? Just send it right, cemetery to town board.
yeah.
Yeah, we already agreed on it.
So the only things carrying over to next are form-based code,
Form-based code and detached ADUs.
correct?
Form-based code.
Yep, the updates, coming back with the updates to ordinance, and then the detached accessory dwellings. Are the only 2 things carrying from today to March.
Yes,
Okay, so just for quick timeline, so the 3 that are moving forward to the town board. The town will try to get it so that the town board can set the public hearing at the February 24th meeting for the March whatever town board meeting.
Computer proof.
okay.
Yes.
Good.
Thanks, Tom.
So guys.
See you.
Tom.
Will we adjourn?
Yeah.